Hey guys, Andy here. So I got my first drone over 2 years ago. It was the Mavic Pro, and the reason I bought that was because finally drones were sort of portable enough. It almost sounds a bit silly for a drone, but quite often they were hulking big devices that take up most of your boot. And the Mavic Pro came along, you could fold it up, put it in your backpack, and off you went. Honestly, in those 2 years, I've probably used it properly less than about 10 times. It's quite annoying in the UK. We're quite restricted where we can use them. But then DJI announced the Mavic Mini for only £369. Now, if I want a portable drone, look at this little fella. So I mentioned some of the restrictions, which is why we're here at Trent Park, and they include things like you mustn't fly more than 120 meters high, that's 400 feet. You mustn't fly within 50 meters of another person or structure, and you mustn't fly within 150 meters of a built-up area or a gathering. So that's quite hard when you live in London to find something like that. At Trent Park, I think I'm quite safe to try it here, so let's give this thing a fly. The first thing I found out was the propellers and motors, they're not strong enough to go through grass, basically. I did know this from a test flight, so I brought along a bit of an old Amazon box or packaging to launch off. You can buy those sort of little helipads for about a tenner. You can actually launch from your hand. Just make sure you get the upward prop going upwards before you let go. I did actually cut my thumb up a little bit bad just before that attempt because I took my hand away without getting enough upward force and the props just fell onto my hand and cut them 2 or 3 times. Anyway, so off we go.
Now, the first thing you need to be aware of is the EU version has or is not allowed as much power to the Wi-Fi which is used to connect the controller to the drone. So we've cut here just to the view from the phone. This is quite a disconcerting message to get. You're no longer connected to your drone. What? Honestly, it was very scary the first time this happened. I wasn't sure what was going to happen to my drone. Now, it will fly back to its home location. You should see kind of at some point when you've got it sat on the ground or else you've taken off, it should hopefully say home location updated. If you lose connection, it will fly to whatever height you've set in the settings, fly home and then come down to land. Now, at some point in that time, you would hope you'd get the connection back and you can just take over. You can cancel the landing and take over. But it is a little bit disconcerting the first time it happens. You kind of, I would like to say, I did panic a little bit. So just be aware of that. Apparently I don't know if it's just American version, will have the full power and you should get the full 4 kilometers. But for me, as you saw, it went up to about 80 meters and that's when I was losing connection, which is not great. Since, legally I can go up to 120 meters and I mean, that was directly up as well. It wasn't like I was flying laterally as well. So, I mean, I did fly outwards and went out to a good few hundred meters. So it's not that you're limited to 80 meters directly. Strangely though, it was just going up that I've had issues on 2 different occasions in 2 different locations. So just be aware of that one. Let's take a look, or just a brief look at some of the software. So I'm in the camera settings here. It's all reasonably, I guess, normal stuff that you would expect to see, especially if you've had a DJI drone before. Here's where you can change the return to home altitude and the max altitude. You can set your own. Honestly, I didn't actually try it. I only just thought, what happens if you put the max altitude up when legally I'm not supposed to? You can see I brought in the max distance a little bit. I think I've heard you can go to about 1.4 kilometers with the EU range, limited by the lack of power. You could, I mean, I kind of wondered, when I heard about this, I thought, I wonder if I should have imported from America and I'd have had better range from the device. But for my own needs, I can't imagine I ever want to go more than a kilometer away. And here's where I decided actually, so I can switch it over to manual. I can choose a different channel for the Wi-Fi to use, which is what I did. I would advise you check that setting as well. So if you've not owned a drone before, you might be thinking, well, how hard is it to fly? And I can tell you, it is very easy. If you've never flown before, it's really not a barrier. And in fact, this would probably be quite a good drone to dive in and to try it. It sometimes get a little confusing which one turns and which one strafes and which one flies you forwards and which one flies you up. But again, with a bit of use, you start getting the hang of that. It's worth being aware that only collision detection on the Mavic Mini seems to be for landing. So if it comes down on something underneath you, it will try and stay above that. Return to home is very handy. So it will, as I say, will kick in if it loses connection. It will kick in if your battery is getting low, or just if you press the return to home button on the controller. Using the Fly app, quick shot intelligent fly modes are included. You've got Droney, Circle, Helix and Rocket, which are all just kind of predetermined. I don't know, they fly up and away from you, or they fly down looking down, or circling outwardly from you and things like that, which could be quite cool and quite handy. And you get 29 minutes of flight time. Now, I didn't try flying that long, if I'm honest. I didn't really feel the urge to, but 29 minutes, that's pretty long. I can't imagine you need any longer than that. And obviously they are replaceable batteries. If you get the Fly More kit, you will get spare batteries as well. As for the camera quality, so it can do 2K video. I didn't actually find in the settings where you turn that on, so I generally filmed in 1080, which is fine for me. And I would say generally it looks pretty good. I don't think it has quite the high dynamic range of a really good lens or a better drone perhaps, but all in all, I think it looks pretty good. The low light is not great. It is quite a small sensor in this drone, but still reasonable. Even though the drone is very small, you would think it might struggle to hold stable, especially when it gets up into sort of 60 or 70 meters high, but actually no, it was really very stable. I think winds will put it off point. If you just have it hovering there, it will drift a little bit. Stills look good. Again, it's just the high dynamic range perhaps isn't there like you might expect from for example, a good smartphone camera. But just remember, this drone is under £400. If you bought a smartphone under £400, you wouldn't be expecting that good of a camera. So I think generally it looks pretty good.
So I think to summarise, it is a really nice drone. For £369, you're getting pretty good technology. If you're serious in any way about drones though, you probably want to go for one of the more expensive ones. It is a bit limited with the range, it is a little bit limited on the features, it is going to be affected a bit more by the wind. So for what you pay, it is a good drone. That's whether it suits you or not is up to you really. Thanks for watching, catch you again soon.